Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for part 2 of the Q&A, so let's go ahead and knock this out. Alright, first question. If someone cannot lift for several weeks, would you recommend maintenance or slight surplus to preserve muscle? Maintenance calories. Maintenance calories will be fine. And in fact, you have to look at it this way. If you can't lift for several weeks, you are going to lose muscle. Okay, you are going to lose some muscle. That is completely unavoidable. However, you can regain it relatively quickly. Now, what you need to remember is that if you go into a surplus, you're losing muscle. So even at maintenance, you're gaining body fat. All right? I want you to understand that. If you are at maintenance and you are not lifting, you are gaining body fat. So if you're in a surplus, you're going to gain body fat even faster. Now, at least at maintenance, if you only lose, say, over the course of whatever those weeks are, let's just throw it out there, 1 pound of muscle. Okay, you can regain that within 2 weeks. Okay, you can gain that in 2 weeks. But if you go into a surplus and let's say you gain 3 pounds of fat extra, 3 pounds of body weight, lose a pound of muscle, you've gained 4 pounds of body fat. You're not going to have to diet off. All right, that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. Here's what I would say. Up your protein and go on maintenance. Now, finding your maintenance could be tricky, but the last thing you want to be doing is going into a surplus and bulking, because you already know you're going to be gaining a small amount of fat and losing a small amount of muscle even in maintenance. The bulking is not going to help you preserve muscle better. Get your protein as high as you can, stay at maintenance, and keep your stress low and get ready to train again as soon as you can. And what I will throw in as the added caveat, if you can't lift, do something. Do something to stimulate some growth. Okay, I don't care what your situation is, unless you are stuck in a bedridden, you can do something, no matter what situation is going on in your life to where you can't lift. You can do something to preserve muscle. All right, next question. Hey Jason, what could be the reason if one's incline bench press is almost as strong as his flat bench press? And I'm not talking about small numbers either. The bench press in this particular case is 140 kilos and the incline is 130 kilos. Thanks in advance and keep the amazing work up. That's not almost. That's 10 kilograms difference. For Americans, that's 22 pounds. Okay, to take your bench from 130 kilos to 140 kilos could take an entire year of training. All right, 10 kilos is pretty big. So when you tell me they're almost as strong, I'm thinking like 137 versus 140, not 130 versus 140. Now, in this case, I think the answer is fairly obvious. You just have weaker pecs. You have weaker pecs. Because what is the incline bench going to be more dependent upon? Front delt, right? Front delt, tricep, because it's got a longer stroke, longer range of motion, more front delt involvement, less lower chest involvement. You're just very delt dominant. You have a lot of delt strength, and your chest is weaker relative if they're closer together. Because the incline bench, it's what I've come to realize and come to accept, and one reason I've finally just come to accept this based upon the data and evidence and everything else. The incline bench is not a particularly great chest exercise in general. So if they're fairly close together, it indicates that you just have a stronger set of shoulders than you do a chest. So it means you've got room to grow as far as getting your chest strength up, or you've just developed an amazing amount of delt strength. You know, either way I wouldn't worry about it, but if you are worried about it, you probably need more chest work. Or you probably just need more chest work in general. Or more chest work and work on your arching more. Learn to arch a little bit better and you'll probably push that gap further apart. You might be benching fairly flat back. Any of those are the possible reasons without being able to see more detail. That's my take on it. All right, next question. Hey Jason, are there any viable progression methods that a lifter can use for many years to reach your 500, 400, 300, 200, 100 standards without constantly changing programs? Oh man, that's going to be a complicated question because let's be realistic. Those numbers I gave you are lifetime goals. Now, are there some of you out there who are going to reach them in 1 to 2 years? Yes, absolutely. Is that normal? No. You want honest truth? On average, those are like 10-year goals, right? Most guys are probably going to have to train for about a decade to reach that. Well, realistically speaking, do you really think you're going to run one program for 8 years straight? I mean, realistically speaking, I can give you an answer. I think there's a program that'll do it, and you already know what I'm going to say. Right? Before we even get to it, you guys know what I'm going to say. I think that for a genetically average person, there is only one program where you can stay on the same program and reach that. But outside of that, because you're going to have to go through being a novice, an intermediate, an advanced lifter, all these things to reach those standards. Because I can tell you honestly, those are well into advanced lifter standards for almost every frame size, barring the biggest frames. Barring the biggest frames, those are pretty much it. So the only program I can think of that can get you there realistically without having to change programs would be conjugate. Because conjugate can be run for any experience level, and it can be custom tailored, and it can take you to maximum strength. That's what the program's designed to do. Or the system, but it's not really a program, is it? Conjugate is a system, it's not a program. All right, my ice cream fitness is a program. Conjugate is a system and a methodology. That's totally different, right? That's different. Not quite the same thing. It's a system and a methodology. I think that would be viable. So here's what I would say. I've been telling you guys, just go ahead and just get on conjugate type systems. You'll be better off for it. And I'd say the same thing to you in this situation. Go ahead and just do it. It'll be probably your best bet if you don't want to have to change programs constantly to reach those goals, if you don't reach them easily enough because you're genetically gifted. All right, next question and last question of the week. Hi Jason, I'm following your advice about pull-ups every day starting my 3rd week on it. I'm a big guy, 280 pounds at 6'6", so at the moment I'm doing 100 a week, hoping to get to 300 plus in a few months. I was wondering about doing dips every day as well. So 100 pull-ups, 100 dips every day to support my pressing as well. Waiting to hear your thoughts about this. Thanks. I started doing that at first myself. I was doing dips a lot with it every day, and actually I went to chin-ups instead of pull-ups because I find that the pull-ups were harder on my shoulders. I don't know if the dips are going to be for everyone. Is it a fine idea if you can handle it? Sure. I think it's reasonable in regard to that. But I think at a certain point, again, you might find it might be a bit much for your shoulders. So I think it's going to depend very much on the person. And what you need to keep in mind, I think trying to do this with multiple lifts every day could become a lot. It could become a lot. Now, you could superset them and do that, and that's part of what I was doing. It might be a lot to undertake, and I'm not saying it's impossible. Some people are going to be able to pull it off. You're going to need to pay very close attention to your shoulders. And I think what you're going to find is that if you start adding dips on top of it, it's going to very much limit the amount of pull-ups you can do. It might start limiting it. And if I had to pick between the two, I feel that the pull-ups or the chin-ups bring more to the table because of the grip training and the extra really good core involvement and everything else. I feel like they bring more to the table if I had to pick between the two. So I would push you kind of in the direction of that. And I'm not saying don't try it. Give it a try and see how it goes. I don't want to discourage you because the last thing I want is to discourage people from doing just good conditioning and building work capacity and stuff. But if you had to pick, if it starts to compromise it, go in the direction of the chin-ups or pull-ups. Now, as an alternative, you could do push-ups. Why? Because push-ups are easier to recover from and they're easier on your shoulders. Right, so that's also an alternative to the dips to think about as well. Because the dips over time, the large volume of dips combined with the chin-ups and pull-ups, it might become, depending upon the person, a lot for your shoulder joints to handle. But, as I've already said, you're certainly welcome to give it a try and see how you respond to it and see how you get on. Because at the end of the day, doing work is still just doing work. It's building work capacity. It's a good thing all the way around. Alright guys, well that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.